What's up, traders? Welcome to the Day Trading Show. Today, we sit down with a special guest, Manny Ramirez. Now, Manny is a trader based in the U.S. who has a ton of experience with Forex pairs and U.S. oil. So if you're a day trader slash swing trader, you're going to love this episode. I want to remind you guys before we get into it that the ASFX TV free trial is still available down below. So if you want to trade live with me and our team of professional traders every day, London session and New York session, just click the link in the description wherever you're listening or watching. And there's a link there for a 3-day free trial. So check that out. Now, enough out of me. Enjoy this conversation with Manny Ramirez. What's going on, traders? Welcome back. So we have a very fun and exciting episode today. We're joined by Manny Ramirez. Manny's a Florida trader like me. Manny's been in ASFX for how long, Manny? About a year, we'll say, year and a half?
Yeah, close to a year now.
Manny's also been to a seminar in person in Miami. It was Miami, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And then now just finishing up the BlackShirtClub. So Manny's got a lot of experience to speak from. And that was why we wanted to bring him on. I think that Manny can help some of you guys that are new or struggling just really understand that this is a process. Learning how to trade is a process. There's a learning curve here, but there are things you can do. And I think Manny's going to share some today that'll shorten your learning curve or cut that learning curve into a smaller amount of time. So Manny, I'm looking forward to this, brother. I know we can talk about a lot, so this will be fun. I'm glad you are willing to give us the time. And we got James here with us today as well. James with the goat chain as usual. So this will be good. James will make sure that I'm not running and hogging the whole episode here. But let's begin with, a little intro to you, Manny, if you don't mind. Just kind of kick us off. Let everybody know, like I said, how long you've been trading. We kind of touched on that for a second already, but anything you'd like to share with the audience to just let them know who you are and maybe how you trade, what your approach is.
Sure. So obviously, like Austin said, my name is Manny. I really appreciate you guys actually inviting me to be on the podcast. I've always wanted to do something like this. So again, I really appreciate you guys inviting me and letting me have the chance to do this. So I am a personal trainer / sport performance coach. That is my day job. I also coach baseball. Very passionate with also coaching, just like you guys are. I've been trading for roughly just over 2 years now, maybe 2 years and 3 months, 2 years and 4 months. I'm obviously a part of the BlackShirtClub. And like Austin said, I think everyone understanding what is your own learning curve, understanding that everyone's journey is different. But what really helped me take that leap, I feel, to progress my trading was just taking ownership of my own results, not blaming anything else, just understanding that, hey, especially with the BlackShirtClub, Tom's Excel sheet is incredible. And it forces you to look at yourself and what you're doing every single day. So you can't say, well, this was because of this or this was because I made these mistakes. I'm going to take ownership of these mistakes. I'm not going to blame anyone else. I'm not going to blame the market. I'm not going to blame anything. Just put it back on yourself. Once you do that and accept that, hey, my TIP or my stats are a reflection of where I'm at, which is okay. It's okay to be where you're at. I think most of us struggle because as traders, we gauge our own value based off how much are we winning and losing. And I can understand why you would do that, but I don't think you should do that until you're actually prepared to do that. Most people are judging themselves after maybe a year and 6 months, or maybe you had a nice little run and all of a sudden you're not doing so well and you think you're a bad trader. You're not a bad trader. You just don't understand maybe certain nuances that are hard to understand if you haven't been doing it long enough. So once you understand, hey, this is where I'm at, I shouldn't judge myself based off how well I'm doing because I'm really not ready to be judged in that way, right? Like we all played sports. All three of us here played sports. Like, do we judge ourselves based on our performance? Yeah, absolutely. Is trading a performance-based job? Yes, it is, absolutely. But understand, it's not like you take a high school kid and throw him into the pros and say he sucks just because he's struggling. Like there's a certain time that he needs to develop and adjust to the league he's playing at to then actually be able to properly judge him. And I think if we can actually give ourselves some grace in that learning curve, we can help ourselves actually accelerate that learning process because we're more open to, hey, this is just where I'm at, and this is where I need to focus on. It speeds up that learning curve because our energy now isn't on these mistakes, but what do I need to do to get better? If that makes sense.
Makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It's so well said, bro. It's like you speaking like a veteran trader, Manny. Like that whole opening right there to me. It sounds like experience. Like you've gone from struggle to success, and it's like the path is not easy, it's not clear, but that, like you said, I think that being very self-critical almost, right? Is it safe to say it's self-critical?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
like on a daily
Absolutely.
basis of like trying to be held to a really high standard. I think that in any sport, in any career, I think that is what the most successful people are doing. I mean, like James, speak on something. I mean, we know you're a big golfer, bro. The guys who play together, like in that Netflix show we were talking about, it was who was it? It was JT, right? And
Justin Thomas and Jordan
Jordan
Speed.
Speed.
Yeah.
They're like buddies, but how competitive are they at the end of the day? And
Yeah,
like
very
how
much
high
so.
is the standard that they hold each other to? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. They can joke around and have fun, but at the end of the day, they want to take each other's heads off. They want to beat each other at the end of the day. But Manny and I actually have in the Black Shirt Club. So I was Manny's coach, and Manny and I have worked pretty closely for the last 12 since the beginning of December last
Yeah,
year,
that's
right,
my
Manny?
bad for not giving
Right.
you credit for that, bro. I should have given
Yeah,
you
it's
credit
Right.
too, my bad.
yeah, and so and it's now almost the end of March, right, 2023. So and Manny and I always like to use like a couple of sports analogies, my stupid sports analogies on our calls and that. But I think Manny understands I'm coming from a sports background. But one of the things Manny and I always spoke about was just winning the day. And maybe Manny can speak a bit more on that. But I think in trading, we think, I think a lot of the time we have a big picture in mind, but we get too caught up in the day-to-day outcomes. But if you just win the day with your process each day, that can lead to the bigger term outcome getting taken care of itself. Same as in sports. So maybe Manny, you can speak about what you think winning the day is for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think to what James said, it's the process. Don't focus on the result. Again, it goes back to where are you in your journey and focusing on what you need to work on. So James being my coach when I first came in, the first thing we worked on was cutting my losses. So that was just the first thing we worked on. Did I have a ton of other stuff I needed to work on? Yeah, absolutely. But we understand that it's just we chip away. It's brick by brick, right? We build that foundation. And that's what it looked like for me. It's focusing on whatever process James wanted me to focus on and then getting better at that thing. Whether it was, okay, cutting my losses, maybe I'm focusing on how the quality of my first trade. I would usually win one trade, lose one trade, win one trade, lose one trade, or vice versa. And it was, hey, make sure that that first trade you take is actually your best trade. So understanding all the different nuances, and again, it takes time, but understanding what it is that you need to work on and giving yourself time to work on that stuff. Um, Austin, me and James were on a call this Sunday with the Black Shirt Club, and we talked about different things like that and how everybody's learning curve is different. And I had mentioned how I had learned certain things, or I could only retain so much information when I first joined ASFX. So I needed a certain amount of time to just get used to the information I had just absorbed before I could add new information. But once I gave myself all those repetitions, right? And I learned from those repetitions, which meant making those mistakes, but they weren't really, it wasn't a negative thing. They helped me learn. And it was from those lessons that I was able to continue to slowly make those adjustments. But it took repetitions. It didn't happen overnight. It didn't happen in one week. It
Right.
really took a lot of time and effort and focus and intentionality in what that process was, not worrying about my P&L that really helped make a big difference for me.
Yeah, it's well said. How many hours do you think you're giving to your trading every day? Because someone's listening, like Manny, like I know you have your job, you're kind of flexible. You could probably make your own schedule for the most part with your job. So it's like, how many hours are you committing? Maybe separated with like trading, Black Shirt Club, and then total.
So let me see. I trade London, I'll trade New York. So that's around 4 hours right there because I roughly trade 2 hours to 2 hours and a half each one,
Okay.
and then maybe an hour for DRCs. So that's essentially what it is.
Yeah. So about 5, 6 hours a day, something like that.
Right.
Yeah. Plus the
Right.
days where you have a coaching call, that call takes an hour, 90 minutes sometimes. So
Right.
yeah.
Absolutely. And then Sundays we have our call.
Yep. Yep. Okay. So why do you choose to trade London living in Florida, East Coast time? Like, I don't wake up to trade London. Why are you doing that to yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a few reasons actually. Right. Why am I
James.
doing this to myself? Well, James, exactly. James is actually the reason I'm doing this. So James had actually recommended to me to trade London just because I do trade Forex pairs, and it seems that Forex pairs move the best during London. I do trade oil in the US and US 500. But when I came in, I really did much better with Forex pairs. So he made that recommendation to me. And I like the idea of also getting my day started earlier. So it just made more sense. And it's really worked out really well for me.
So how are you prioritizing sleep? Because this is the big thing now. Everybody's wearing a Whoop band or doing something to track their sleep. How are you prioritizing sleep if you're waking up at 3 a.m.?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's really honestly been one of the toughest things for me and something that I'm still trying to figure out. There are days where I am fatigued. Um, but it's really trying to, I guess, take naps when I can. Because of my job, I'm very engaged. I'm more of an introverted person, so emotionally, it does take more out of me because I do have to give my clients the best. I deal with adults, but I also deal mostly with kids, high school kids too. So they can be a little emotional sometimes. You're sometimes more of a therapist and a coach, sometimes also just dealing with whatever they have to go through.
Yep.
So being able to try to take naps and stuff like that, not do anything outside of working out that really stresses me. For any of you who don't know, so I majored in sport and exercise science. Emotional duress and mental duress is the same as physical duress. Your body perceives it the same. Stress is stress. So finding ways to relax will help you recover faster. Your body releases certain hormones that are not beneficial for your recovery if you're under stress, whether it's physical stress from like working out or mental stress or emotional stress.
Good
There's
to
your
know.
little tidbit.
That's real good, bro. That's some really good information. That's I mean, because you see me, my Instagram stories, I'm sure you see I'm obsessed with going to this place now near my house where I'm doing like the cold bath and the compression stuff. So I'm obsessed with the recovery.
Oh, that's awesome.
I've been trying to get better with my sleep because like I normally get to sleep around like 9 or 10, but I need to sleep till like 5 or 6. Like some days I'm up at 5, some days I'm up at 6. No alarm, just up. And I'm normally asleep by like 9 or 10, somewhere around there. I can't do it earlier. I used to when I was streaming and doing some other stuff back in the day. Remember, James, I was up, I think we'd start the live room at like 5 a.m. and run until 11 a.m. straight. It was crazy, bro. But I was getting fatigued. So then think about the decisions I'm making at the end of the week. They're probably not really good decisions,
right.
And that was what you were talking about in your report card last week. So maybe we should touch on that a little bit, James and Manny, just on how like you guys together have worked on bringing awareness to fatigue. Is there something more to it than that you've been? Because like, I mean, once you're aware that, okay, I'm not myself today, kind of like that C game stuff. Okay, pull yourself off. But what else have you guys been working on in that realm?
Yeah, sure. So just with Manny, I gave him the option. From his stats, he trades the Forex pairs better. So I said, you can either wake up early or you can move to South Africa. So he told me to wake up earlier. He doesn't deal with the blackouts here and the load shedding and power outages here this side. So he said he'll wake up early. But I think Manny makes it work because for him, he told me that he can make it fit around his schedule. So we actually had a call today. We always do our calls around 7 a.m. So, and I've been speaking a lot to Manny about the timing. So Manny and his stats also, just to get into it, he was trading best the first 2 hours of the London Open. And then there's like that gap time between the London session and the New York Open. And I told him, go have a nap then. Have a nap, recharge your batteries, come back for the New York session. So just making it work. And as Manny was saying, using naps to recharge his batteries. But just from that mental fatigue. And so Manny had a thing that we spoke about at trading day. I believe it was about 2 weeks ago, Thursday or Wednesday, something. Anyway, he took an oil trade. I do believe it was oil, Manny, where he was trying to buy it. And it was one of his, so Manny, when he first came into the Black Shirt Club, was trading many entry signals, right? He was trading the A1, the D1, the D2. And I found Manny that Manny trades the D1 best from his stats, right? And his RC is the D1 best, just looking purely from a break and retest of the Asian range in simple terms. But so just eradicating all those the C games, C setups helped a lot. So on that day, Manny, I think it was like a Wednesday, it was just not a great setup. So just from mental fatigue, we spoke about that, and clearly Manny was, you had just started, I think you're preparing to take the challenge, so you're obviously eager to get into trades, but just the mental fatigue, and maybe you weren't well rested at that stage. But Manny and I have been really, really, I always ask Manny when we're in the London session, how are you feeling today? You're good. Because, you got to be self-aware in the fact like, okay, maybe today I'm a bit tired, especially if you're waking up at 3 a.m. It can take its toll on your body. And then and we actually spoke today on our call about, only trading Monday, New York session, right, Manny? Only trading Monday, New York session, and letting the London Open happen on Monday, because I haven't had a trade during London session, and I trade predominantly the London session in about six weeks, probably even more. So just, letting London happen and coming on for New York. But yeah, Manny, you can maybe speak a bit more about how you have been able to work on, how we've worked on your A, B, and C game, and how you've dealt with times where you've been fatigued or, less, and how that fatigue, and from sport, when you're tired, it's actually when you make more stupid mistakes. You'll do more silly things when you're tired, when you're fatigued. That's why when I was playing rugby, we would run first for an hour, 30 minutes, and then we'd start to do the ball skills, the ball work, because then you're actually more tired, and then it gets your brain to concentrate underneath fatigue. But Manny, you can maybe speak about that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the big things, and it goes back to how we, I guess, attacked my weaknesses when I first joined the Black Shirt Club, and it was focusing on one strategy. And that really helped a lot because now my mind wasn't as clouded looking at so many different ideas, right? So what also came from that was I was able to realize this foundational strategy and then find little deviations of that strategy that would help get me into trades. So like James said, I do trade the D1. It is the thing I see the best. And that day specifically, since we brought it up that day, I could see like subconsciously the market didn't look quite clear to me. But I was at the desk. I felt like I should be taking my trade. It was to a degree my trade, but one thing I didn't realize because I was under fatigue is that I was trying to buy it while it was making lower highs and lower lows versus it going the opposite direction, right? So it was a break and retest, but the price action structure wasn't quite what it should have been. And subconsciously, I could tell this looks kind of weird. This doesn't look kind of like I'm used to seeing it, but I still took that trade. So I knew there was something off. I couldn't tell what it was, but I took the trade anyway, as opposed to maybe if I wasn't so fatigued, I could have seen that and just stayed away, right? If you don't love something, you probably shouldn't enter that trade. But I think for me specifically, it's hard for me to trade under fatigue. So I'd rather just stay away. I'd rather, and this comes back to knowing yourself. And I'm sure Austin's spoken a ton about this. It's one of my favorite things that Austin says, and it's a question that he asked, would you be more pissed if? And I ask myself this question all the time. And for me is, would I be more pissed if I took an entry under fatigue and I lost, or would I be more pissed if I didn't take the entry under fatigue and it ended up winning? And for me, it's losing money hurts worse than not making money. And I know that about myself. So I'd rather just not take the trade and lose out on a good signal, seeing that I read the signal and maybe growing more confidence in the fact that I can read the signal versus taking a trade that I'm unsure of and losing it.
Yeah.
Love that.
And
When in doubt, stay out. That's the
Yeah.
easy way
Right.
to remember that, right?
And I think that's Manny. I think that's one thing that we worked on a lot, right? Was remember I always told you is that especially in the last like 6 months, I've been working on my trading. And instead of trying to make more money, cut out the unnecessary losses, right? So, for example, like let's say you're a trader. Trader A makes 100,000. His profits are $100,000 in the year, but his losses equal $80,000 in the year. He's making good money, but his losses are almost eradicating them. So he's making net profit 20,000. But I spoke to many. I was like, if you just made $100,000 in the year, but you eradicated your losses down to $50,000 or $20,000 in the year, now you're making more money, but you're not having to go and actually hold your trades for longer. You're not your winners for longer. You're not having to do that. You're just taking out the unnecessary unnecessary losses, and it piles up your wins a lot more. So that's what we spoke about a lot when Manny came there. I saw that he can make money trading. Manny's been funded before. He's made money trading. But it was just eradicating the unnecessary losses that he was taking that was hurting his, not only his trading capital, but his mental capital too.
I love that. It's the same thing we've talked about a lot in the Black Shirt Club about like the reverse problem solving. It's like, if you're trying to get rich, figure out how to stay broke and don't do that. That's basically what this is.
Right.
In a trading.
Right.
Version,
exactly.
right? Yeah. So
exactly.
I love that. I think that's a really good way to work it. So what pairs are you looking at, Manny? Give the audience some direction on like, how have you narrowed or broadened your watch list over time, and what would you recommend to a newer trader who's trying to figure out what pairs should I be looking at?
Right. Absolutely. So, James was a big help with that because when I first got in, I must have been looking at like 22 different things at one time.
Jeez, 22,
right,
bro.
Right. It was a lot. It was a lot. But I think, and again, this goes to how dedicated are you as a trader, right? Because you need to collect statistical data to understand, okay, what is it that I do well? And that takes time and effort. So you need to be more serious and more intentional if this is something that you really want to do. And I'll answer Austin's question, but I really want you guys to understand this point because it's such a big emphasis, man. Like, and you learn this if you play sports at a high level. It's how much time do the people who are good, how much do they dedicate to what they're doing? And is that my same level of effort? So when I went to the seminar in Miami, I saw all the effort Austin was putting. And I told myself, okay, I can't expect to see the results that he sees if I'm not even putting in half the effort he's putting in. So I had to challenge myself to put in that same effort. So again, like if you really want to grow in your trading, you have to track your trades. You really have to take that time and effort to see, okay, what pairs do I trade well? So I went from like 22, I think I'm down to 10. I can definitely still shorten it more, but I'd really like to have a little more time trading to see what pairs are my best pairs. Right now, I look at US 500, oil, GJ, GA, GCAD, and then EJ, EA, ECAD, and then EU and GU. Those are the pairs I trade right now. And like I said, I really would like to slim it down more, but I feel like I need at least maybe 6 months to a year to have a really good idea of the landscape for each of those pairs to see, okay, what does my statistical evidence show me I trade best, and then make a decision based off that.
I love that. Do you feel ever like it's hard to stay on top of that many pairs, or did you feel that way before and that's how you got to this number where you finally feel comfortable of like, okay, I kind of know what all of them are doing once I'm in on the week, you know what I'm saying? Like you're by Tuesday, you kind of know which one is moving which way.
Right. So I think I definitely do have a decent read on all of them right now. However, I wasn't aware that I didn't know how much I didn't know when I had 20 pairs. It wasn't until James shortened my list that I started to see the difference. So I can only see how much more would benefit me if I did it more. I just feel like I need a little more data before I do that. So yeah, I do see the difference, and I can tell for the most part, okay, this should move this way, this should move that way. However, I think I would be even more in tune with the pairs if I did cut it down more. Like you only trade SPY and you're killing it. So it just goes to show, you know?
So really, I feel like as you've progressed, the saying, do less, do it better, do it bigger, you've kind of been working all three of those at the same time. So going forward, which one are you kind of focused on now? Is it the do less? Is it the do it better? Or is it the bigger?
I think it's the less. I think it's the less because I still think to a degree I do overtrade. I think I could be a little more selective, but as I figure out what the nuances are, which you only get from focusing on one thing, and there's so many different nuances, man. Like, okay, where's the RSI at when you're entering the trade? How much has a liquid 50 been in your zone? You know, what does price action structure actually look like? There's so many little, what's the volume like? And for anybody else who might use a different indicator, you know, you have to have time with those indicators or whatever it is that you're doing to understand what the nuances are to each of those things. And it's different for every pair. So I think that's been a big one for me, just understanding that.
Yeah. Which one are you enjoying trading the most? GJ? Is it SPY? What do you look at? Like, is it oil? What do you like the most?
So recently it's been oil.
Yeah.
Whenever it's trending, just continues to trend. And it's been easier reads for me.
Okay, so have you been following the fundamentals on oil more? Has that been helping you? Are you ignoring fundamentals with OPEC because like how is oil at 67 for US oil when we got the war in the Ukraine going on? Because remember when the war started, it went to 125 and everybody was freaking out. And now it's at 67. So in the back of my mind, I've always felt like the oil price is so controlled by the Saudis and whoever is controlling OPEC and all this other big influence on like the price of oil. So how are you riding that trend, or like how are you seeing that macro picture?
No, absolutely. And we've talked about this. That's something I definitely need to work on. And I've had a little bit of a harder time recently reading it with everything that's been going on. But I feel if I did know more about the fundamental side of that pair, I could definitely do much better. But it had been only technicals up to that point. But it's as long as it's trending and you're not hearing anything about it, it'll usually carry that trend. But when you start to hear any turmoil or any fear in the market about it, you'll start to see it go a little more haywire, obviously. But I feel like that's another area that I'd like to improve on, just that fundamental stuff.
But as a day trader, does it, I'm going to say, and James, maybe you disagree or agree, I don't know. I feel like as a day trader, fundamentals matter a little bit less than they do for like a swing trader or a position trader. That person really needs to understand what's potentially coming. Like you don't care about the news next week if you're trading oil today, because you're just looking for a day or two move, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So kind of is a little bit easier in that sense. But still, what I would tell you, you know, I'm on my 8th year. When I was 2 years deep, I had no idea what fundamentals meant. Like I was seeing the Forex Factory news and I could understand like there's a news event happening. I'm not an idiot, but I didn't know what it actually meant, what had meaning or not. And they change over time. So it's very interesting, like how oil might be impacted at one point by CPI and how it might not be impacted by CPI at a later time. It's very strange.
Right.
So it's I think it's because people think correlations happen 100% of the time if you see something correlated once, but that's just not how it is. Even if it's correlated right now, it's not 100% of the time, and most correlations break. Like Bitcoin to SPY last year was like this. Now, very different now. So yeah, interesting. Okay, James, anything you want to jump in on as far as questions for Manny?
Yeah, well, the fundamentals, that's not my game, man. That's your game.
You're the fastest trader I know. One of the fastest traders I know.
Yeah,
so for you, and you don't even trade news. So you're like dipping in and out around news. Yeah.
Like for example, I'm looking at EuroCAD longs. If it closed green as a bullish day here today into tomorrow, but we have Canadian dollar. What do we have? Canadian dollar interest rates tomorrow, or is it Canadian dollar? Yeah, GPI, what's it? Yeah, CPI news tomorrow for the CAD.
GPI.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah, you see, I don't even follow news,
Yeah, bro.
I'm like,
that's what you South Africans will call it, the GPI.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like to avoid the fundamentals, but just maybe something for Manny. Manny, how do you see sports? Because I know Manny on our conversations, most of our analogies, or whenever I speak to anyone, but Manny, I know I love using the sports analogies because you can understand them. How do you view sports and trading? And how, because just to put it out there, I think Manny's going to be a great trader for many years to come. Just to put it out there, I think he's
Agreed.
got great potential for many years to come. He's already a good trader, but I think he's going to be a great trader for many years to come. He's just got to believe in himself and carry on winning each day. But just to ask for the viewers, how do you view sports and trading as kind of like similar? What similarities do you feel that, like, okay, cool, you understand sports, now you can translate that to the currency market or the
First,
trading
what's
market?
your favorite sport, Manny?
Favorite sport? That's tough. I played baseball, so I'm a little biased to baseball growing up. I'm Puerto Rican, so that's what we do.
That's what we do, bro. I feel that. All right. So
Big poppy.
Big poppy. Yep. All right. So do we feel like there's any direct, because I can't think of any baseball to trading references. So you got to have one for us. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
All right. Give
For
us
sure. Absolutely. So a big part of baseball, like when you go up to hit, is having a plan. And I coach, obviously, right? So I coach high school, I coach college guys, I've coached minor leaguers before. So there's two different aspects that you want to focus on. So you focus on the mechanical side of a swing, right? Which would be the technical aspect of trading. But then you also focus on the mental aspect, or the mental aspect of trading relates to what is your plan when you're at the plate ready to hit. So most guys will change their plan in the middle of an at bat, which is why they tend to struggle. You can have perfect mechanics or you can have great technical analysis, but if your mindset isn't right, it's not really going to matter. So that's probably been the biggest correlation I've seen, is having a plan, sticking to it, and then mastering yourself. You can't get emotional, right? You can strike out the first 3 times, but if you get hit a game-winning home run your last at bat, nobody really even recalls that stuff, you know?
That's so true. That's great. I mean, I've never heard that explained that way because I didn't play baseball, but that makes a lot of sense. There's so many references from sport to trading. Do you find that, like, you've seen growth within yourself now, especially with the reflection that you mentioned in the Black Shirt Club? Do you find that you've seen characteristics in yourself that you're like, oh, I want to amplify that because that's going to make me a better trader, or I'm going to turn this one down because this is kind of hurting my trading? Has anything like that come up that might tie into sport as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a big one is confidence, man. Like you have to be confident. You have to be, like, regardless if things are going well, if things are going bad, you have to be confident and just believe in yourself and your ability to adapt. I think that's what makes trading so hard, and that's one of the things I'm realizing it more, and it's hard to even, I guess, articulate what it is that I'm trying to express right now, but I can feel the difference in the market whenever I'm taking trades. I can feel when the market is more in my favor versus when it's not. Like last week was a much tougher week for me than the previous 4 weeks, where it was just overflowing with opportunities. And it's hard for me to quantify or articulate what exactly it was that was happening. I think maybe all the stuff with the banks really shifted how things look right now. And I think that uncertainty is what has changed in the market, that's made it harder for me to maybe read price action right now or keep things trending the way they were. Because I feel like for the way I trade, the D1 has really, whenever I see something trending, it's easy to get in on a pullback. But whenever it's not, it's much harder to get in on those D1s because you're not sure if it's actually going to hold or not. But I think that's really the biggest thing, is just that confidence. You can't waver. You have to trust in yourself and trust in the work that you're putting in and just believing in it.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, in every sport, that's all that matters is confidence. From getting girls to sports to trading, confidence is everything.
No, seriously.
Right? Like you could be the ugliest dude in the bar, right? And if you're confident, like I know you've seen it, bro. I see these videos of like these fat dudes talking to hot girls at the bar, asking them questions to be filmed on TikTok. They're confident. Right. They go up saying, yo, we're going to film this. You want to be on video? They're confident and the girls talk to them. Same thing in trading. If you come into it, like you said, I know my strategy. I know what kind of trade I'm looking for. When you're in those trades, don't they just feel better than when you do the other bullshit that all three of us have done in the past, right? Where you're just slinging, you're frustrated, right? When you're in a really good trade of your trade, you're like, oh, the heart rate doesn't move. That's a good way to describe it too, right?
Absolutely, dude. Yeah. Absolutely. It's so different too, because you can, and I know most people don't like this, but you can feel it. You can feel the difference.
Yes. It's hard to teach that though. And I'm sure you can relate that in sport, right? Because like when you're trying to teach someone experience, it's hard to quantify. So it's hard to pass that on to somebody. And that's why I really liked what you said at the beginning about like, you got to be committed to this. You got to work for this. You got to show up. You got to be at the desk. You got to put the work in. And I think that that's where confidence and hard work come together. And that's where people that become successful make it, they're lucky. No, they were confident. They worked hard. It comes together and that creates opportunity. And then that looks like luck to the people that are not working. Right?
Absolutely. That's literally
so
what it is.
one thing I just wanted to say with Manny is that we've worked with Manny a lot about only trading one entry and exit system, right? The D1 on the break and retest of the Asia range in simple terms. Then Manny has his entry criteria. But I think another baseball term for that I've spoken a lot to Manny, and Manny mentioned this earlier, is that he used to often lose his first trade and then win his second trade. But being just switched on the first trade, because if you hit your first trade in the day, you can be one and done. And I think that comes a lot to how, well, this is also what our reference to my going for 1R. You guys know I like to trade 1R with a 60+% win rate. Is Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter is a baseball player, he's a Hall of Famer, but he never had the most home runs, but he got to first base. And in trading, not all you got to do is wait for your pitch. And even if you bunt it to get to first base, it doesn't matter. You're still getting to first base. You're still in play for your team, right? And that's what I've been speaking to Manny a lot about. Is not every single time us as traders we want to try and go out swinging for home runs, but it doesn't work in the long scheme of things. In the grander scheme of things, you have to be thinking long term. Just get to first base. Win the day. Get to first base. And whatever that looks like for you, just get to first base. Whatever it takes, you got to get to first base because then you're in play. For you, then the next day you come in on a Tuesday and you get to second base. Now look, you haven't really done much, but you're already on second base,
right?
And that's
right.
So that's how
that's the compounding effect of small wins. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
I'm very interested in the thing you said, Manny, about like the batter comes up to the plate with a plan. When you say that, do you mean he knows if he's trying to hit it a single, if he's going to swing for the fence, if he's going to bunt? Like that's what you mean? He's kind of, I know what I need to do to kind of move the team forward, and then. If that's what you're saying, when you say that for like trading, does that mean like I'm going to do my morning routine? I'm going to prep the right way, get my mind in the right place. So I know I'm coming in to the batter's box at the desk in the best possible position.
Yeah, absolutely. So it definitely touches on that also. When I was thinking about it, I meant more as whatever your trading criteria is in trading your plan. But you did touch on an important topic, which is what is your pre-trading routine? What gets you ready to actually compete at your highest level? And I think that is also it's a part of our plan. So it should be a part of most people's plan because we do take the time to include it and make sure we're actually doing it. But yeah, absolutely. So a hitter will know, okay, what pitch am I trying to hit is the big one, right? And then what is it that my team needs right now? Do they need me to actually try to drive in runs or do they need me to just hit that single? And then playing to that, understanding what is the situation. That comes back to, okay, what is the market giving me? Because ultimately, even as a baseball player, you might want to hit a home run, but you can't if the pitcher won't give you the pitch you need to hit that home run. So what is it that the market is giving me and what am I willing to take?
Yeah.
Or am I going to get greedy and,
Yeah, love that. Great analogy. Do you feel like there's any areas of your trading now as you're kind of coming to the end of the Black Shirt Club that you're focused on making improvements that maybe you would tell a newer trader to say, start focusing on this sooner? Is there anything you would even just look back on your journey so far? What would you maybe tell someone? Start doing this or focusing on this sooner?
Yes, I really do think it is the mindset, but
Okay.
mindset as it relates to expectation.
Okay.
Right. Because I had spoken to someone else in the Black Shirt Club about this, who I think is an awesome trader and kills our markup game and is a really good trader. How if you have a process focused mindset, the losses don't hurt you as much because you realize, hey, this is where I'm at. So I joined the Black Shirt Club obviously because I know I wasn't where I wanted to be. So why wouldn't I be mentored by people who are doing what I want to do? Right. So if I'm going to be in it, I'm going to listen to them. So understanding that I shouldn't be winning right away, because if I was winning right away, I think I'd know everything and I wouldn't be in the Black Shirt Club. So just accepting where I'm at and understanding I need to make improvement. So my focus is on the improvement, not on winning the trade. And as I continue to improve, the wins will come. That was really the big shift for me. And it totally changed everything for me.
Expectations, right, James?
Yeah.
You see that with everybody.
I've just pulled this up, actually, the 4 agreements. Be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions and always do your best. So the don't make assumptions is don't have any expectations. I think that's one of the biggest ones for me in my training is actually, when you don't have any expectations, you actually, you take the pressure off first of yourself. So you have less stress. You're able to focus on just trading well, winning the day, trading well each and every single week, each and every single day. And, you know, at the end of the day, you actually end up a lot farther than where you actually thought you would be if you had no expectations. Let's say your goal was to make 50 grand in the year. If you have no expectations, you know, sometimes you might just blow that past and make 150 grand in the year. So and then you're like, wow, geez, I had no expectation 3 times what I thought I would, you know, or my goal was. So, and it feels a lot better then. But I think, as Manny was saying, like the expectations just cut you up, as we were speaking about in the beginning of the before we started filming. But like when you're in a challenge, you know, you have that expectation of you need to make 8%. But if you just come in with the mindset of I'm going to trade the same way I would if I was trading when I'm funded, then, you know, things just, the weight of the chest just, it comes off your chest basically. Yep. So yeah, it's a big one.
Every trader that I worked with that's now doing well would tell new traders the same thing, Manny. It's the expectations. They get in the way of our potential growth path. The expectations make you live in a reality that just sometimes, like I said, slows you down. So it's really good to remind new traders to say, like, no, just be humble. Come into it being humble, know where you're at, see how long it takes most people to get good at this. And if you settle into that, I think what you end up figuring out pretty quickly is, do you really love markets? Do you love them enough to make you money? Or do you just want to try to make some short-term cash, and this isn't the vehicle for that, you know? So I think if you settle into that, you can answer that passion question pretty quickly. And that's a big deal. I mean, Manny, at this point, you would say, even if I took all your money away, you would still try to figure out a way to trade. Am I wrong?
Oh, sure would.
Right. So it's like when you're that in love with trying to understand markets, why do you like it so much? Like, because sports, it's different. Sports is problem solving puzzles in a different way. This is just a different type of problem. So I'm curious, what attracts you to trading so much?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different things that attract me to trading. One thing I like about us specifically though, ASFX, is the community, because I think about Chris. So I actually watched Chris' podcast, and I kind of had that growth mindset, but he really helped me in his podcast, like lean into it when he said that he was taking the whole year to figure out how to trade his trade.
Right.
And I was like, that's awesome, but that's why he's going to be good. That's why he's going to be just fine.
Yep.
But I'm sorry, can you repeat the question one more time?
No, I was just saying, like, in the direction of you trying to, I guess now you got me thinking, since you're saying ASFX itself kind of gives you the community to facilitate that growth. What are you trying to improve on, if any, areas of the trading now that you've finished the program?
Yeah, absolutely. So the big one for me is do less. Do less. I got to figure out how to what are my true best trade setups? Because we can see our trade, it might not, but what grade is that trade, right? Does that make sense?
Right.
So understanding, but that comes to those nuances, and you only figure it out when you lose. When you lose, you start to see, okay, well, this was different than it was this time. And then I can compare my markups and say, okay, this is my trade setup. But it goes back to the effort you're willing to put in, right? But that's really the thing I'm trying to figure out. How is it that I can increase my win rate? By doing less. What is it that I'm not seeing that I should be seeing that will allow me to then take the best trades?
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, and then I think the other one was why do you love trading so much, Manny? Besides
right.
money? Yeah, that was the other one.
So obviously making money is a big one. We all like to be financially okay, right? I think money will solve money problems and you're left with regular problems, but it's nice to just have those money problems figured out, right?
Yeah, sure.
I think also just the free time. I really like to have time to do what I want. I don't really like having to ask somebody for permission to maybe take off to spend time with family, or if I want to catch my cousin's graduation, she's graduating from college soon, like having to ask for time. I think that's really the big thing, to be able to devote more time to the things I'm also passionate about. I also love how trading is like your own space. You can create a space for you that you like, that fits however your personality is. So looking at one thing I like to look at is different people's trading spaces. So James' space looks different from Austin's space and Tom's space. And then I like my own space. I have a bunch of RGB stuff. I have multiple screens. I like having a space that is just mine. I feel very comfortable in my space. I'm naturally introverted. So again, I like my space and I like alone time. So I think that's one of the things I like about trading, because I don't feel as exhausted when I do it. Well, I do right now, but as I grow, I'll learn to deal with it better. But even I pour out a lot of myself when I have to coach people. So that's one thing I like about trading. I can just be by myself.
Yeah.
Love that. All right, last question for you, Manny.
Sure.
Any final advice to a new trader who's listening to this? They just found the day trading show because they've, searched the keyword. What advice would you tell them to focus on the most in their first year, if you could give them one simple thing?
I think it would be, and we've said it again, it's your mindset. Have realistic expectations and then be intentional with your time. So if you see that you're making mistakes, I would target those mistakes and then work on fixing each one of those mistakes individually. And I promise you, you will become a better trader. But that does require quite a bit of intentionality and effort. As long as you're willing to put in those things, you don't have to be the smartest person to be a trader. You just have to really be committed to the process and then being willing to master yourself, look at yourself, understand where you're at, and just accept it and learn how to deal with it. Maybe not erase those things, but deal with those things.
I love it. Manny, I appreciate the time very much. I'm sure everybody enjoyed this episode. We'll see what the comments say. People listening, if you listened all the way through, we really appreciate it. Put some questions for Manny in the comments, and we'll make sure to go through those on the next episode when we bring Manny back, maybe later this year, to check in, see how things are going. But James, I appreciate you as well. I know the audience does. And I think that's a great one, boys. This was fun. Thank you again, Manny. James, you the man. Everybody listening and watching, thank you very much. We'll see you in the next episode.